Hey guys, tonight we're heading back to the sooty heart of Victorian London, a place where horse-drawn carriages rattle over slick cobblestones. The air smells faintly of coal smoke and something suspiciously like rotting cabbage, and every flickering gaslight casts long, twitchy shadows on narrow alleys. But tonight you're not a lord or a duchess. You're stepping into the worn boots, or more accurately, the pinching lace-up heels of someone history often whispers about but rarely invites center stage. A brothel worker. You're not in a gilded drawing room. You're standing in front of a dark wooden door painted red, nearly hidden between a fishmonger stall and a pawnbroker with a taxidermy badger in the window. It's 1883, it's drizzling, and your corset is already cutting into your ribs. You probably won't survive this. At least not without a sense of humor and a strong stomach. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere interesting, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push open the door, the heavy wood creaking like it has a secret. Inside, the air is thick with rosewater, tobacco, and the faintest trace of gin. A low fire flickers in a soot-stained hearth. This is the Lily House, one of a dozen brothels tucked into the maze of 7 dials. You're new, green. Your name here isn't your real one. It's something floral, charming, and just a bit forgettable. Let's call you Violet. Madame Beatrix, the proprietress, gives you a glance that weighs 100 things at once. Height, teeth, posture, desperation. Then she hands you a basin and a brush and point. T.S. toward a narrow staircase. No words exchanged, just routine. Upstairs, your room is barely wider than the bed. A cracked mirror leans against one wall. The wallpaper peels like it's trying to leave. You can hear the muffled thump of boots next door, then a giggle that turns into a cough. You get dressed quickly, fumbling with buttons and stays. No one helps you. Your corset laces too tight. A frilly shift, stockings with a run already forming. Historians still argue whether brothels actually provided uniforms or if women were expected to bring their own costumes. Either way, you look like you belong on a biscuit tin, not in a bedroom. There's no dinner. Just a stale heel of bread in the kitchen and something floating in the gin that you try not to look at too closely. You sip anyway. It calms the nerves, or at least it numbs them. The house opens at sunset. The gaslights hiss to life, the curtains are drawn, and a strange silence fills the air, like the breath before a thunderclap. Your first customer isn't as dramatic as you imagined. He's older, wears gloves indoors, and speaks in clipped phrases. You try to smile. He doesn't notice. When he leaves, he forgets his handkerchief. Monogrammed, you'll find a drawer full of those by month's end. Later, in the parlor, the other girls sit in a crooked circle playing cards. One cheats, one scratches at her scalp. One keeps glancing toward the door, waiting for someone who probably isn't coming. You join in, not knowing the rules, and lose all your pins. No one cares. The camaraderie here isn't deep, but it's real. You're in the same boat, even if it's slowly sinking. Downstairs, Beatrix talks to a police officer. Quietly. Too quietly. Everyone pretends not to notice. Brothel owners often paid off the local constables for protection, which could mean anything from overlooking licenses to ignoring mysterious disappearances. No one asks questions unless they want answers that bite back. You go to bed at dawn. Not sleep, just bed. The sheets smell faintly of lavender and sweat. You hear someone crying in the hallway, muffled, someone else laughing in her sleep. The city never really sleeps, and neither do you. Not properly. You stare at the ceiling, counting cracks. There are moments of softness. One client brings you a flower, another reads you a poem, not his, but sweet anyway. You tuck those memories away like pressed petals, hidden in the back of a drawer where no one can steal them. And still, each night you rise again. Powder the face, rouge the lips, smile like it's not cracked around the edges. One night you meet a chimney sweep who pays just to talk. Another, a butcher who gives you a pork pie. You pretend to eat it. You don't know where it's been. Some customers want strange things, tickling with a feather, pretending you're their childhood nanny, quoting Shakespeare mid-embrace. Some are kind, some are cruel. Some forget your name even as they whisper it. A fringe historical theory claims some women in brothels secretly recorded the odd behaviors of their clients and passed them on to reformists or journalists. It's not confirmed, but wouldn't that be delicious? One morning you wake up to frost on the inside of your window pane. Your toes are numb. You wrap yourself in every spare shawl and sip tea that tastes like boiled socks. Still, you manage a wry smile. You're surviving. For now. You wake up late, closer to dusk than dawn, with your limbs tangled in blankets that never seem quite clean, and your head fuzzy from the cheap gin. The gaslight sputters as you splash icy water on your face. No warm baths here, just a chipped porcelain bowl and a cloth that smells faintly of someone else's perfume. You stretch, yawn, and reach for your corset. Time to become someone else again. Corsets. You knew they were uncomfortable, but no one told you they were warfare. You loop the laces through eyelets, pulling until your waist protests with every breath. It's like trying to fit into a teacup. The boning digs into your ribs. By now, you've learned that the original Victorian corsets were reinforced with whalebone, or more accurately, baleen, the stiff filter plates from the mouths of certain whales. Whales didn't know they'd become essential to 19th century fashion. You try not to think about that as you tighten the final tug. Over the corset, a bodice. Stockings held up by garters. A petticoat, a second petticoat, a chemise. You consider skipping one layer, but remember Beatrix's rule. A girl who dresses in haste repels in profit. She claims she heard it from a duchess. She probably didn't. Then boots, black leather with heels too high and laces too long, 42 eyelets, each requiring a delicate tug. Victorian footwear is a commitment. You once spent nearly an hour lacing up only to realize your stocking had slipped down, bunched around your ankle like a deflated sock puppet. No one helped. They just watched, smoked, and smirked. And now the face. Powder to hide the dark circles, rouge to mimic innocence. You've perfected the art of applying it with a cracked mirror and a single candle. Too much, and you look like a ghost. Too little, and you look like what you feel. Somewhere in between is alluring. You dab perfume behind your ears. Real perfume is too expensive, so most girls mix rose water with whatever they can afford. You've used lavender oil, vanilla extract, and once, in desperation, clove water meant for toothaches. It worked, sort of. The client said you smelled mysteriously foreign. You decided to take that as a compliment. Downstairs, two girls are arguing about whose turn it is for the good chair. The good chair has both arms and no mysterious stain. You settle into the second best one, smoothing your skirts. The parlor is where you wait, like goods in a shop window. A customer might choose you, or he might pick someone else. You smile anyway. Tonight, the house is expecting a few regulars and maybe some new gentlemen. You hear whispers about a doctor, a banker, and a man who insists on bringing his own wine glass. He says it makes the champagne taste truer. He also wears 2 pocket watches and only speaks in Latin when he's nervous. You're hoping you don't draw him. You watch the others get ready. One girl tightens her corset using the edge of the fireplace. Another fluffs her hair with a comb missing 3 teeth. Historians still argue whether brothel workers maintained elaborate grooming routines or if that's a romanticized notion. The truth? You do what you can with what you have, and some days that's not much. There's always someone new. A wide-eyed girl from the countryside who doesn't yet know what a Tuesday night looks like. She still thinks clients will fall in love. You don't say anything. Everyone learns in their own way. In the corner, one of the older women, Marianne, sews a rip in her dress. She hums tunelessly, and you realize it's the same tune she hums every night, a music hall number from 10 years ago. No one sings the full song anymore. It's just a ghost of a melody, stitched into routine. Tonight, you're paired with a man named Mr. Harris. You recognize the name. He always asks questions about your childhood, your hobbies, your opinions on the corn laws. It's like being in a job interview with a footman undressing you in the background. Still, he tips well and never overstays. He's already had a few drinks when you greet him. His breath smells faintly of cloves and regret. You offer him a seat, pour him a glass of something pretending to be port, and prepare for the usual dance. Some nights, clients want fantasy. Others want familiarity. And some want neither. They just want silence and company, like sitting beside a fireplace that doesn't speak. Mr. Harris falls somewhere in between. Nan. He asks if you've read Jane Eyre. You lie and say yes. He looks satisfied. He doesn't ask anything else. A fringe detail you once overheard in a pub. Some brothel clients would request Bible verses before or after a session. Not ironically, sincerely, as if Scripture washed away sins with the same ease as soap. You've never been asked, but you've practiced a few verses just in case. After Mr. Harris leaves, you return to the parlor. Someone's crying in the hallway. Someone else is eating bread with jam straight from the jar. You sit quietly and loosen your corset just enough to breathe without seeing stars. Someone jokes about a client who asked for a night of quiet chess. Someone else says, "I'd marry him." Everyone laughs. The joke isn't about the chess. It's about the quiet. Later, you watch Beatrix count the money. She uses an abacus. Of all things, she says it helps her feel connected to the ancient world. You wonder if the Romans ran brothels with punch cards. Upstairs, the candle in your room has burned down to a stub. You sit on your bed and unlace your boots, too tired to be graceful, one eyelid at a time. It takes forever. You rub your feet and think about everything and nothing. The chimney sweep, the clove-scented port, the new girl who still hums lullabies under her breath. Outside, a carriage clatters past. The driver whistles something cheerful. You pull the covers up and try to dream of fields, of rivers, of somewhere that smells like grass and not rosewater and sweat. You wake to the sound of someone pounding on a pipe. That's Agnes from the next room. It's her subtle way of saying, "Get up, lazybones. The wash basin's still half full of your powder water." You grunt, stretch, and immediately regret moving. Your body aches in the places only old beds and tighter-than-sanity corsets can create. Victorian mattresses aren't known for their generosity. Or springs. Downstairs smells faintly of burned toast and yesterday's gin. You tiptoe past Beatrix's office, trying not to make eye contact with the ledger on her desk. That book knows more secrets than the entire Metropolitan Police. This morning, like all others, you're expected to follow the house rules, which are handwritten, framed in gold, and entirely ignored by anyone with seniority. First rule, no loud voices before noon. That one's broken regularly, usually by Beatrix herself. Second rule, personal grooming must be impeccable. That means clean hands, trimmed nails, hair arranged in something more sophisticated than a rat's nest. Not always easy when your only comb is missing half its teeth and your wash water is closer to foggy, then clear. Third rule, no pets. Which is odd, considering the ginger cat that sleeps on the hearth and has been named 5 different things depending on the mood of the girl feeding it. Currently, he's General Macaroni. Today's your cleaning day. Everyone takes turns, and if you skip yours, your next customer will mysteriously be the one with the wandering hands and strong opinions about foot odor. The house may be filled with lace and wine and suggestive paintings, but it runs on rules, strict ones. There's even a fine system. Late to line up, a penny. Caught napping, 2 pennies. Caught napping in a client's bed without said client, a shilling and a lecture. You're responsible for dusting the front parlor. It's all mahogany furniture, fake pea, palms, and doilies stitched by someone who had way too much time. You dust around the porcelain figurines, shepherdesses with vacant eyes, and one particularly unnerving cherub whose expression seems to change when you're not looking. Behind the parlor curtain is the velvet chaise longue, the centerpiece of the room. It's been recovered 3 times this year alone due to accidents. You don't ask, you just fluff the pillows, spritz the air with rose water, and move on to the next task. Bathrooms, if you can call them that, are a shared ordeal. 2 lavatories for the entire house, each with a temperamental chain pull and toilet paper that's rationed like gold. There's also a tin bath in the cellar for deep cleans. If you're lucky, it's just warm enough not to freeze your hopes and dreams. You clean it today, scrubbing off someone else's ring of lavender oil. Historians still argue whether brothel hygiene standards were better than those in typical working-class homes. Some evidence suggests women in brothels had more regular access to soap and water, if only because clients expected it. But clean doesn't always mean safe. You've had 3 girls this month go to the infirmary with infections. 1 came back. The other 2, no one says much. Upstairs, Beatrix does room inspections. You hear her sharp heels tapping past your door, followed by a cough. If she knocks, you're meant to curtsy, even if you're in your petticoat, even if you're brushing your teeth with baking soda and a splintered stick. She raps once. You open. She surveys the room like she's measuring it for auction. She sniffs, literally. Smells like onions, she mutters. You haven't had onions in 3 days. You smile and say nothing. It's safer. One of the newer girls, called Nellie, though that's probably not her real name, gets caught with contraband, a pamphlet from a group called the Ladies' Association for the Moral Reformation of Prostitutes. Beatrix confiscates it, lights it with a taper, and drops it in the fireplace without breaking eye contact. Nellie doesn't flinch, but her fists stay clenched long after the ashes scatter. You try to stay out of the drama, but drama finds you, like when Agnes accused Clara of stealing her bonnet, or when the gin bottle went missing and everyone pointed at Daisy, except Daisy was out walking with a client and came back tipsy, but with the bottle. She claimed it had walked to her. Even the furniture holds grudges. There's a corner chair no one sits in since Gertie twisted her ankle trying to impress a client with a backwards pose. The chair's been slightly off balance ever since, and the story's grown into legend. By early afternoon, Beatrix posts the schedule. It's written in cursive so fine it looks like spider silk. You're 4th tonight. That's decent. Early enough to avoid the rough drunks, late enough to catch the ones who've had time to bathe. You take a break on the stairs with a biscuit and a cup of tea that's mostly hot water. The ginger cat, General Macaroni, joins you, curling up on your lap. He smells like soot and dust and faintly of lavender. You scratch behind his ears and wisp, "Hear your secrets." He doesn't judge. A fringe historical tidbit claims that some houses require the girls to practice specific phrases in French or Italian to seem more continental. You tried once. Bonsoir, monsieur came out sounding like bunch of sore monsters. Beatrix banned French for a month. Later, just before the evening's clients arrive, you're called in for gown inspection. Beatrix insists on checking for loose seams, missing buttons, or stains. You pass, barely. She frowns at a loose thread and mutters something about standards slipping. You resist the urge to point out the ceilings still leaking from last week's rainstorm. By the time the sun sets, your corset is back on, your boots are laced, and your smile is polished and ready. The rules are ridiculous, the chores are endless, and the house has more secrets than the Tower of London. But somehow you're still here, still standing, still earning. And that's its own kind of triumph. The night shifts start to blur together after a while. Time becomes a distant thing, stretching and snapping like the elastic in your corset. It's hard to keep track of which day it is when each one feels the same, just in a different shade of exhausted. You've learned the rhythm. Clients file in, the parlor fills with whispers and cigarette smoke, the housemaids scurry about in the background, and somewhere in the distance a horse whinnies, always a horse. The sounds of London at night are comforting, almost familiar now. You slip into your assigned position, right by the fire this time, where the warmth feels a little like home, even if it's just temporary. The evening is young, and already the first gentleman is expected. His name is Mr. Mortimer, and he's a regular. A lawyer with a waistcoat too tight and a portfolio full of papers he never actually uses. You've learned not to ask what he's carrying, because when he does speak about it, it's mostly about taxes and land deeds. The moment he enters, he immediately starts talking about his business, as if it's the only thing worth sharing. It's always the same routine. He greets you with a half-hearted nod, and then insists on discussing the finer points of his case, something about an inheritance dispute. You're beginning to suspect that this is all he talks about anywhere, not just at the Lily House. You smile and nod, and then you wait. You've learned that some clients just need someone to listen to their woes. They're not here for the company. They're here for the illusion of company. There's a certain art to that, really, to making them think you care while your mind drifts to the next moment, the next task. Historians still debate how brothel workers manage the emotional toll of constantly listening to strangers' lives unfold in front of them. Did they become emotionally detached over time? Or did they try to, build genuine connections in the fleeting moments? You suspect it's a bit of both. Detachment is survival, but at times, a shared laugh or a moment of kindness feels like a small rebellion against the grind of it all. Mr. Mortimer eventually grows tired of his own voice and, like clockwork, gestures toward the door. You walk him out, offering a polite smile as he reaches into his pocket and leaves a tip, always with that same look in his eyes, like he's surprised he didn't get more out of the experience. The night stretches on, each new client offering their own unique quirks. There's the colonel who insists on telling you about his military exploits in India. He brings a book to show you all the places he's been. Somehow, the maps seem more important than anything else. Then there's the elderly gentleman who talks about his grandchildren's misbehaving dog. You can't help but wonder what these men would say if they knew the full story of the girl standing before them. If they knew anything more than the few words you've been trained to say. After each client, you return to the parlor to join the others. The atmosphere is a strange mix of camaraderie and quiet competition. You all know that only the most charming, the most attentive, the most willing will get the highest earnings. The others sit with flushed faces, gossiping about their experiences. Who was sweet, who was rude, and who made the mistake of asking about the weather. You overhear Clara, one of the older girls, tell a story about a man who once asked for a kiss on the hand, and she'd refused. It doesn't seem like much, but Clara's tone conveys something else. The story is about power. A refusal is a small act of resistance, of reclaiming a scrap of dignity. But that's not how it works here. Refusal is rare. You've learned to navigate the rules of politeness and propriety. Sometimes you wonder if the clients are only as comfortable as you let them be, whether they really know the boundaries you create with every word you don't say. By midnight, the parlor empties out. Beatrix begins her rounds, checking each room like a prison warden doing head counts. Tonight, she asks you to help her rearrange the furniture. It's a strange request, but you comply, moving heavy chairs with someone else's strength. In the dim light, you watch her adjust a mirror, straightening the frame, then nodding with satisfaction as if the entire house's future depends on a single, perfect reflection. As you stand by the hearth, you feel a strange sense of separation. You're in a place where time doesn't stand still, but it doesn't move either. You can feel the years stretching ahead of you, endless in their repetition, but you can't picture any life beyond the brothel. Your world is measured in hours of waiting and seconds of brief encounters. It's easy to lose track of the time outside. A fringe historical detail you once heard from a traveler, probably just a rumor, is that women who worked in brothels often lived longer than their peers. It's a strange claim, one that doesn't fit with the images of disease and poverty often associated with the profession. The theory suggests that brothel workers, especially in places like London, had access to more frequent medical checkups and better food. Still, you don't need a doctor to tell you that the constant strain of living two lives takes its toll. The years feel long, even when the nights themselves are short. After everything settles, you head upstairs to your room. The ginger cat follows you as usual, and you let him curl up on your bed. There's a strange comfort in having something that depends on you, even if it's just for warmth or companionship. You close the door behind you, unlace your boots, and slip under the covers. Tomorrow will be the same as today, and the day after that, likely the same as tomorrow. But for now, you allow yourself the briefest moment of quiet. You think about those few minutes before dawn when everything is still. The house is asleep, and the only thing you hear is the sound of the wind outside. In that moment, you're not Violet, not a worker. You're just someone who exists, who breathes, who waits for the next day to start again. The bell rings downstairs. It's not a loud sound, just a polite ding, but it carries weight. That particular chime means it's time for dressing, not just clothes, of course, but transformation, performance, pretending. The velvet curtain between yourself and the night is about to lift again, and the show must go on. You shuffle down the hall and into the dressing room. It's hardly glamorous. Half the oil lamps flicker too much to see properly, and one cracked mirror leans against a chipped wardrobe. But it buzzes with quiet urgency. Dresses in various states of repair hang on every hook. Some have been mended so many times they should qualify for a pension. Tonight, Beatrix wants the girls in soft elegance, which means pastels and lace. You pull a gown from your peg, pale green, wide sleeves, a bit of fray at the hem. It smells faintly of lavender sachets and powdered sugar. You try not to think about how many women have worn it before you. You squeeze into the dress, twist your hair into the recommended style, half up with ringlets, a nightmare with no proper curling iron, and reach for your ribbon choker. Every girl has her own. Yours is black silk, slightly frayed, but it makes your neck look longer. Or so Clara says, and she has unnerving fashion instincts. Once dressed, you file down to the front parlor, each of you taking a spot like mannequins in a shop front. The lamplight casts soft gold across your face, smoothing over fatigue, age, memory. You smile, because the clothes are just the wrapping. The real work begins with the way you carry it. Fashion here is theater. Clients expect fantasy. A world where nothing stinks, no one has debts, and your hands are always as soft as a duchess's sigh. Your clothes must support that illusion. Corsets cinch you into the preferred silhouette, a wasp waist that could snap under pressure. Bodices emphasize the bosom. Layers of petticoats add bounce to your walk, and everything must gleam, even if it's made of stitched lies. You've become a master of quiet improvisation. One client likes blue ribbons, so you tuck a spare into your cleavage when you know he's coming. Another favors lace gloves. You borrow them from Clara in exchange for helping with her petticoats later. Victorian fashion is absurdly impractical. You've tripped over your skirts more times than you can count. Buttons pop off when least convenient, and the lace snags on everything. Clients' rings, the fireplace grate, that one nail in the stair banister that Beatrix keeps promising to fix. Still, clothes are power. The right dress can make you feel untouchable, even when you're anything but. You catch sight of Agnes across the room. Her dress tonight is bold red, more scandalous than sweet. She winks at you as she fans herself with a folded pamphlet. You glance closer. It's one of those handouts from the Moral Purity Society. She's using it to hide gin. Naturally, historians still debate how much control brothel workers had over their own attire. Some say madams dictated every detail to project a specific image. Others claim the girls picked from communal wardrobes and pieced together whatever flattered them best. Here, it's a bit of both. Beatrix controls the look, but the girls, especially the seasoned ones, know how to bend the rules without breaking them. A new girl arrives tonight, pale, nervous. She clutches a tiny bundle of belongings wrapped in an old scarf. Her dress is clearly homemade, sweet but not cut for this kind of stage. Beatrix eyes her critically, then sends her to the wardrobe room with a nod. "Put her in lilac," she says. "It makes them look softer." You remember your first night here. The too big shoes, the too tight bodice, the way your stomach lurched every time a man walked through the door. You wanted to disappear into the curtains. Now, years later, you are the curtain. A fringe tidbit you once heard from an eccentric regular. In some upper-class houses, women wore special perfume depending on the mood they were meant to convey. Citrus for playful, musk for mysterious, rose for romantic. You tried to emulate it once by dabbing lemon oil behind your ears. The client said you smelled like a cake and left a coin shaped like a frog. You still have it in your drawer. Tonight, your shoes pinch just slightly, but you walk with practiced grace. A new client enters, a portly gentleman with gold-rimmed glasses and a walking stick shaped like a dog's head. He wears a tweed suit and a stiff expression. Beatrix whispers that he's a barrister with friends in Parliament. "Smile like you've never seen power before," she says under her breath. You do as told. He picks Clara. You don't mind. Your feet are already tired, and there's comfort in fading into the background for a little while. While the others disappear, into side rooms you wander into the hallway and pause before a dusty painting. A reclining nude, once risque, now just faded. You trace the frame lightly. The woman in the painting looks serene, untouched by time or clients. You envy her stillness. Back in the dressing room, you sew a missing button onto a bodice while chatting with Marianne. She tells you about a friend who supposedly ran off with a poet. "To Brighton," she says, eyes twinkling. "He bought her a pony." You raise an eyebrow. "A poet with money for ponies?" She shrugs. "Stranger things have happened." You both laugh quietly. Outside, rain begins to patter on the glass panes. You love the sound. Soft, steady, safe. Inside, the parlor buzzes again. More clients, more illusions, more gowns slipping off shoulders with theatrical ease. And under it all, your skin prickles with the weight of the fabric. The corset digs, the boots chafe. but your smile stays painted on. After all, the costume is only half the job. The other half is pretending it doesn't hurt. You're in the parlor again, reclining just so on the brocade settee, enough to look casual, but not so much that your bustle creases. It's a performance you've perfected, like sitting for a portrait where the painter never arrives. The candles flicker in their sconces, casting long romantic shadows that make the peeling wallpaper look almost artistic. Tonight's pace is slow. The regulars haven't come yet, and Beatrix is pacing like a general before battle. Her heels click against the warped floorboards, and you can almost see her calculating profit margins with every glance. And then the whisper starts. You hear it first from Clara, who heard it from a maid, who got it from the stable boy who definitely isn't supposed to gossip, but absolutely does. A baron might visit tonight. The whole room shifts. Girls sit straighter, fluff their curls, adjust ribbons. Even Beatrix applies more rouge. It's not every day that someone with a title walks through your battered red door. Nobles usually visit higher-class parlor houses, places with marble floors, imported wallpaper, and champagne chilled properly. But every now and then they slum it. For the thrill, for anonymity, for something no polished establishment can give them. You smooth your skirts and prepare to dazzle, but the door opens, and it's not a baron. It's worse. It's a man who thinks he's as important as one. He enters with a flourish, trailing cologne and the scent of damp wool. His boots squeak, his mustache twitches, and he's not alone. He's brought a friend. Together they sweep into the room like two drunken windstorms in top hats. They choose Agnes and Nellie, and within moments the air is filled with laughter too loud and perfume sprayed too generously. You keep your smile neutral. Let them enjoy their performance. As the night creeps along, you drift between rooms, listening more than talking. Every brothel has its secrets, and the walls of the Lily House absorb more than candle smoke. Behind the red velvet drapes, truths slip free like loose garters. In the back salon, someone mentions a bishop who visits incognito. He removes his collar, but not his guilt. In the upstairs bath, Daisy claims she once had a duel fought over her honor, though it was settled with words, not swords, and both men wept. Historians still argue whether Victorian brothels were truly the hubs of scandal they're often portrayed as, or if those tales grew taller with each retelling. But when you live inside the walls, you know better. Scandal is currency here. If you can't spend it, you can at least trade in the thrill of the story. Tonight, the whispers swirl like chimney smoke. A parliamentarian was seen entering a rival house. Beatrix's jaw tenses when she hears. She hates competition, especially from Madame Sinclair, the woman who once stole her cook, her best girl, and, rumor has it, her husband. Probably not in that order. Later in the evening, you catch a glimpse of something odd. Beatrix slipping into the back room with a young man in a velvet waistcoat. He's not a client. Too clean, too nervous. He hands her an envelope and she hands him a list, names, schedules. You can't tell. But when she returns, her lipstick is smudged and her smile too bright. You mention it quietly to Marianne. She nods once, then sips her gin. Politics, she says, always finds a way in. There are hidden rooms here, though you've never seen them all. One behind the bookcase in Beatrix's office supposedly leads to a safe, or maybe a wine cellar, depending on who you ask. One of the older maids swears there's a secret passage to the bakery 2 doors down, though it might just be a rat tunnel. There's even a trapdoor in the linen closet. No one uses it now. Once it led to the coal chute. Daisy says a girl disappeared down it last year. You think she's exaggerating? Probably. And then there's the mirror in the upstairs dressing room. It's cracked at the corner and always a little foggy, even when polished. Some say it doesn't show your reflection, but the version of yourself you used to be. You looked once. All you saw was tired eyes and a pin slipping loose in your hair. A fringe story you overhear. Heard from a client, a writer, possibly mad, claimed certain brothels employed women specifically to listen for political secrets. He said they memorized names, dates, whispered strategies. He said they passed them to journalists or enemies or ghosts. You laughed at the time. But nights like this, you wonder. By 2 a.m., the house quiets. The loud clients are gone. The mysterious ones retreat into rooms with velvet locks. You walk the hallway barefoot, your boots dangling from one hand, your skirts rustling behind you. It's peaceful, the way a forest is peaceful after wolves have passed. You pass Agnes's door and hear music, faint, scratchy. Someone brought a phonograph. You pause to listen. The tune is haunting, familiar. A waltz, maybe, or something close to it. You sway gently, eyes closed. Downstairs, the candles burn low. You tiptoe through the parlor and draw back one curtain. Outside, the street is damp, gleaming. A man walks past, hat tipped low, humming a lullaby you haven't heard since childhood. For a second, you almost forget where you are. Then the curtain falls back, and you remember. This is your stage, your costume, your cue. And behind the red drapes, the stories pile up, one client at a time. By now, you've learned to watch not just the clients, but the staff, the real backbone of the house. Beneath the lace, the painted smiles, and the flickering gaslight is a whole ecosystem of quiet labor. And if anyone knows everything that goes on at the Lily House, it's not Beatrix. It's the butlers, the chambermaids, the doormen, the laundry girl with the lazy eye, and an uncanny ability to repeat conversations word for word. Take Mr. Hobbs, for example, the night butler. Tall, thin, always wearing gloves even when polishing brass. He never knocks, just appears like a ghost with sideburns. You've never seen him drink, sleep, or sit. He's been here longer than most of the girls, probably longer than the furniture. Mr. Hobbs knows every creaking stair, every loose floorboard, every drawer cell with a false bottom. He keeps the front door locked just until the third knock, his way of sorting the drunkards from the gentlemen. Sometimes he passes you messages in folded corners of linen. Room 3 is occupied. Mr. Harrow left his cane. Don't mention the bishop tonight. Then there's Maggie the maid, small, fast, and always one broom ahead of disaster. She can clean a whole parlor in the time it takes you to lace one boot. She sees everything, especially when she pretends not to. One night, she spotted a client slipping something from the mantelpiece into his pocket. Without a word, she tripped accidentally and knocked his drink all over him. He left with wet trousers and no stolen souvenir. Maggie also handles accidents, which range from spilled wine to fainting girls to a bird that once flew in through the chimney and refused to leave. She trapped it in a bonnet box and named it Percy. Beatrix was not amused. The laundry boy, Joe, is 12 and wise beyond his years. He delivers clean linens, collects chamber pots, and recites Shakespearean insults he learned from Claude. Ray, he once asked you what a courtesan was. You said it meant someone very good at conversation. He nodded solemnly and said he wanted to be one when he grew up. You told him to try the law school instead. Historians still argue whether staff in Victorian brothels were complicit or simply surviving alongside the women. Some were likely just happy for the wage, however meager. Others, like Hobbs or Maggie, seem to see their roles as something greater: caretakers, protectors, quiet guardians of the house's fragile order. The butlers know who's dangerous before you do. They watch for clenched jaws, twitchy fingers, the sway of a man who drank too much before knocking. If Hobbs ever gives you the nod, you know to tread carefully or excuse yourself entirely. Once he intercepted a man with a knife sewn into his coat lining. Never said a word, just turned him away at the threshold. There are unspoken codes between you and the staff. A glance, a raised eyebrow, a cough at the right time. If you stumble in a room and cough twice, someone comes. If you knock once, wait, then knock again. Hobbs opens the door no matter what. These signals are lifelines. You teach them to the new girls before you teach them how to smile through a conversation about railway bonds. The house also has its ghosts, or so Maggie says. The attic creaks even when there's no wind. Room 6 is always colder than the others. Sometimes the front parlor's clock ticks out of rhythm just as a client crosses the threshold. These aren't facts, but the stories persist. A girl who vanished, a client who collapsed in mid-sentence, a mirror that reflects things that aren't there. You've never seen a ghost, but you felt a chill that wasn't the breeze. You've heard whispers through the wall when no one was next door. You've woken with the sensation that someone was standing over your bed. It was probably just Beatrix doing her rounds. Probably. One fringe theory, shared in whispers over candlelight, is that some brothels kept objects for protection. Talismans, charms, bits of string, bound in specific knots. Clara keeps a silver thimble under her pillow. You once found a poppet tucked into the rafters above the dressing room, sewn from scraps of lace and old thread. You left it alone. Life behind the scenes isn't just gossip and linen. It's organization, inventory, accounting. Every candle stub, every broken clasp, every pair of borrowed gloves is logged in Beatrix's book. If something goes missing, she will find out. She once made a girl cry over a missing hairpin that turned out to be under a settee cushion. The pin was returned with ceremony. The cushion was not. You help Maggie with sheets once a week. It's a strange kind of peace, folding fabric in silence while the house hums. Larsware. She hums a tune sometimes, an Irish lullaby that makes you think of open hills and no walls. Tonight, you overhear Hobbs speaking to a man in the vestibule. The man's voice is low, urgent. Something about papers. Hobbs makes a dismissive sound and the man leaves. You wonder how many secrets pass through the front door each week, how many promises made and broken, how many letters burned in the kitchen stove before dawn. Later, while brushing your hair in the dressing room, you notice a crack in the floorboards near your vanity. It's new. You crouch, peel back a plank, and find nothing. Just dust. Still, your heart skips. Not everything hidden is worth finding. As you curl into bed with General Macaroni purring at your feet, you realize you've gone another day without incident. No bruises, no broken pins, no scandals. That counts as a good day. And somewhere in the silence, you hear Maggie laughing softly in the hallway, a sound that makes the walls feel warmer somehow. Behind every red curtain, someone's watching. Sometimes that's the safest thing of all. You wake up before the bell today, which is rare. Maybe it's the chill in the air, or the ache in your lower back from last night's corset lacing, done too tight, too quickly. Or maybe it's because today's different. You don't know why yet, but the house has that feeling again, like something's going to happen. You stretch slowly, listening to the soft creaks of floorboards, the muffled cough of someone down the hall, and the delicate splash of water from the shared washroom. Another day in the oldest theater in London. There's a knock on your door, 2 taps, then a pause. That's Maggie. You open it and she's already holding out your robe and a half-warm mug of tea. "Doctor's coming," she whispers. That explains it. The physician visits once a month. Beatrix insists it's for the health and reputation of the house, but everyone knows it's more about satisfying the law. Brothels, at least the licensed ones, are expected to keep the workers inspected. Clean, presentable, market-ready. You drink your tea in silence, mentally reviewing what the doctor will want. Wash, comb hair, make sure there's no bruising, no swelling, no anything that might signal illness. Victorian medicine, as you've come to learn, is less about comfort and more about protocols. The man who arrives today is tall, severe, and silent. He wears a coat with too many buttons and carries a black bag that seems to hum with menace. He does not make eye contact. You join the queue of girls on the staircase, all in dressing gowns, all pretending they aren't embarrassed. Some chatter nervously, others go quiet. You and Clara exchange a look, tight-lipped amusement at the absurdity of it all. The exams are quick, brutal but brief. He uses a long metal implement and asks no questions. No bedside manner here. You stare at a painting of sheep in a meadow while he works. It's tilted. One sheep is up, side down. You wonder if that was intentional. Historians still argue whether Victorian doctors believed these exams genuinely prevented disease, or whether they were more about asserting control. Some reports suggest the entire system was flawed, checking only the women, never the clients. You've never once seen a man turned away for coughing blood, but you've seen a girl let go for sneezing twice in one evening. After your turn, you sit with Daisy, sipping weak broth from chipped bowls while the doctor finishes his rounds. Daisy says she hates how he smells, like chalk and cloves. You agree. He's like a human apothecary cabinet. He leaves without saying goodbye, and Beatrix immediately opens the windows to clear the air. More like to clear the guilt. Beatrix posts a notice an hour later. One girl is on rest. That's code for infected, unwell, or worse. Her name is struck from the evening list. No one says it aloud. That's another unspoken rule. Don't ask about the girls who suddenly go visit their aunts. Most don't come back. You think about the girl who arrived last month with pretty teeth and nervous hands. She's not here today. A fringe detail you once overheard from a client, one who worked at the hospital near Whitechapel, claimed that some brothel girls were experimented on for science, that their symptoms, their bodies, were charted, examined, dissected metaphorically and literally. He laughed when he said it. You didn't. Tonight's clients are already being discussed by the others as you come downstairs. There's a familiar buzz, who's generous, who smells like herring, who once asked Agnes to pretend to be a ghost. You hear Nellie groan when she's told she's got Mr. Cavendish, the one who brings an umbrella indoors and speaks exclusively in riddles. You're not listed tonight. Beatrix calls it a recovery shift, a reward, supposedly, for surviving your checkup with grace and not fainting like Daisy did last time. So instead, you help Maggie in the laundry. It's strangely calming. The heat, the steam, the rhythm of scrubbing lace collars against a washboard. It smells of soap and effort. Your hands wrinkle, your arms ache. But you feel useful, like more than a painted face. Maggie sings while she works, half songs, nursery rhymes, nonsense. You hum along. Between wash cycles, she tells you about her brother, who works as a footman at a proper estate out in the country. He says the air smells like grass and sheep, she says, almost wistfully. I haven't seen a sheep since I was 10. You say the only sheep you know live in that crooked painting upstairs. She laughs until she hiccups. That night, the house is quieter than usual. Rain taps against the window panes like it's trying to get in. You sit in the parlor anyway, book in lap, pretending to read. The ginger cat curls near your feet, his tail twitching as he dreams of pigeon chases. And then the doctor returns. Not expected, not wanted. Beatrix stiffens at the door, but lets him in. This time he brings a sheet of paper, A list of recommendations. No one sees what it says, but Beatrix's mouth thins. He whispers something in her ear before departing into the wet London night. Later, you see her tear the paper in half and feed it to the fireplace. The flames crackle like a secret being devoured. You ask Clara what she thinks it was. She shrugs. Probably just another man telling us how to live. And in that moment you realize just how much of your life is dictated by people who never ask your opinion. Doctors, clients, inspectors, ministers in parliament who think they understand morality because they've never had to fake a smile for coin. But still you are here, whole, tired, resilient. You stand, stretch, and climb the stairs to bed. In the mirror, you catch a glimpse of yourself. Not just the rouge and curled hair, but you, real, awake. You stare for a long time before finally turning away. You're hunched over a candle in your room, counting coins with the kind of intensity normally reserved for card sharks and bank tellers. It's end-of-week tally time, Beatrix's favorite ritual, and your least favorite reality check. Each tiny silver piece clinks onto the table like a reminder of everything it doesn't buy you. Let's break it down. First, your room. It's not really yours, of course. You rent it from Beatrix, £0.50 per week, whether you use the bed or not. The mattress is straw-stuffed and uneven. The pillow leaks feathers at an alarming rate. Still, she calls it luxury lodging. You call it better than a street corner. Next, wardrobe rental. Dresses don't magically appear, nor do corsets, garters, or shoes. All are billed to your weekly tab. One ripped petticoat and you're down another few shillings. And don't forget cosmetics, powder, rouge, the awful lemon-scented cold cream that makes your skin tingle in a way that probably isn't medically advisable. Then there's toiletries. The communal toilet paper ration is a sore subject. Literally, you get a set number of squares per week. Some girls sneak extras from the laundry bin. Others improvise with catalog pages. You tried that once. It ended badly. There's also soap, hairpins, candles, and starch for your skirts. The house keeps a ledger for it all. If you sneeze in a scented handkerchief, it shows up as a line item the next day. You even get charged for meals, though calling them meals is a stretch. Breakfast is typically toast, sometimes porridge, often just weak tea. Dinner, if Beatrix is feeling generous, includes something resembling stew. You've become very good at guessing what meat used to be. So, after all deductions, your grand earnings this week? 7 shillings and 5 pence. You stare at the coins and try to imagine what they could get you in another life. A train ticket out of London, a pair of clean gloves, a new toothbrush. Historians often argue whether brothel workers were truly exploited financially, or whether the income, especially compared to domestic work, was comparatively better. In theory, you make more per client than a maid earns in a week. In practice, that coin drips through fingers faster than spilled gin. And Beatrix always gets her share. House cut, she calls it. A third of everything, more if the client requires extra care. You once asked her what that meant. She said it included broken glass, unusual requests, and crying fits. You'd be surprised how many men weep after, she said, not unkindly. A fringe story circulates among the girls. A woman once saved every penny for 5 years and opened her own tea shop in Margate. No one knows her name, or if she even existed. But sometimes you whisper her story to yourself before bed, just in case she's real. Tonight, as you finish counting, Agnes enters with a biscuit in a handkerchief. "Leftovers," she says, "but the jam's fresh." You split it, grateful for the sweetness, for the company. You both sit in silence, staring at your money piles. Hers is smaller. She got saddled with a quiet night and a customer who forgot his wallet. Happens more than you'd think. And somehow the forgetful ones always come back flush a week later. Never to you, of course. "How much for a bottle of scent?" she asks suddenly. You shrug. "A good one, 3 shillings. She whistles. "Might as well bathe in gin and tell them it's Parisian." You laugh, but there's truth in it. One girl tried selling a mix of rosewater and vinegar as imported fragrance. It worked until the client's eyes watered mid-kiss. You think about things you could save for: a new dress, a replacement hairbrush, even a pair of sturdy walking boots for winter, since the ones you've got now have started whispering secrets through the soles. But the saving never lasts. Something always comes up. A doctor's visit. A client who breaks something valuable and insists it was your fault. A cousin who suddenly writes asking for help. Never mind that you haven't heard from them in years. You wonder often what it would be like to work and keep what you earn. To work and not owe the building, the madam, the candle, and the air itself. The ginger cat jumps into your lap. Agnes pets him. "He doesn't pay rent," she mutters. You snort. He contributes in purring. By now, you've wrapped your coins in a handkerchief and tucked them behind a loose floorboard. A trick Marianne taught you. Hiding money is like hiding hope, she'd said. Better to have both somewhere they can't tax them. Tomorrow, the cycle resets. More clients, more candles burned down, more rouge applied and washed away. And the ledger will tick forward line by line, counting every drop of perfume, every biscuit crumb, every sigh. But tonight you lie down with 7 shillings and 5 pence. A fortune in some worlds, in yours a lifeline. And maybe, if the story of the tea shop is true, you're only 5 years away from Margate. The house is unusually tense tonight, more so than the regular pre-evening shuffle. There's a draft slipping through the windows, the fire won't catch, and Beatrix has checked her watch so many times it's a wonder the thing hasn't worn out. Something's in the air and you feel it like a change in weather. Then it happens. The door bursts open, not slammed, not kicked, but with that deliberate force of someone who knows they're about to cause trouble. A gust of wind follows him in. Hat tilted, mustache thick, newspaper clutched under one arm. He strides past the parlor and slaps the paper on the table like a royal decree. "Front page," he announces. "Page 1. Everyone freezes. Even General Macaroni stops mid-stretch. You and Agnes lean in to read. There it is, in bold letters. Parliament official caught in red light raid. Unnamed source hints at high-profile clientele. There's a murmur, more breath than voice, as the room swells with quiet dread. The article doesn't name your house, not directly, but it describes a location near the 7 Dials, with luxurious crimson interiors, and a ginger cat known to sleep in the parlor. That's not just specific, that's pointed. Nellie gasps. Clara snatches the paper, reading faster than you thought she could. Beatrix stands behind her, face unreadable. Then, finally, she speaks. "Girls, no one talks to anyone. No reporters. No clients asking questions. Not even each other. Strange thing happens when scandal brushes too close. You'd think people would run, flee, vanish into fog. But it's the opposite. Business booms. Curiosity is its own currency. Tonight, the door barely stays shut between visits. And the clients? They're jittery, red-faced and over-perfumed. One gentleman practically throws a gold sovereign at Beatrix before requesting absolute silence. Another refuses to remove his hat, muttering about recognition. You wonder if he thinks the furniture will gossip. You're paired with a man who keeps checking the curtains. Not at you, not at your eyes. Just curtains. Over and over. You ask, gently, if he'd prefer to reschedule. He says, No, I need this." "Need what, exactly?" You never ask. Some needs are better left unspoken. Historians still argue whether public scandals ever truly damaged brothel reputations. In many cases, they didn't. The thrill of danger, of getting caught, seemed only to draw more interest. There's something twisted in that, but you stopped trying to untangle it. Beatrix, of course, is already in damage control mode. She calls in a printer to design new calling cards under a different name, the Dovecoat. She swaps out the front curtains for navy blue ones. She has Maggie replace the velvet chaise with a less photographable settee. Everything's shifting, like a stage being rearranged mid-play. You and Clara practice answering the door with vague smiles. "This isn't the Lily House," you say sweetly. "You must be thinking of somewhere else." A fringe detail from Beatrix herself. During the last scandal years ago, she hosted a masquerade night. Full masks, whispered names, cash only. She called it the Night of No Faces. She claims a duke came disguised as a chimney sweep and tipped £100 just to dance. Clara says she's lying. You're undecided. In the days that follow, rumors fly like bats. A maid says she saw a member of Parliament leave through the cellar door. One girl claims a reporter offered her 2 shillings for a name and a wink. You check the newspaper each morning now, just in case your name appears. And it doesn't. But that doesn't mean it won't. The pressure builds. You feel it in your shoulders, your spine, your breath. You can't afford to slip. One wrong word to the wrong man, and suddenly you're not Violet anymore. You're unnamed source. And then a client says your real name. Not loudly, not with anger, but casually, like he's always known it. You freeze. He smiles. "Don't worry," he says. "I did some digging. You're not easy to find." You excuse yourself mid-sentence, pretending a cough. In the hallway, your hands shake. You don't go back in. Hobbs handles it. You don't ask how. Later, Beatrix says only, "He won't be returning." And you don't push. That night, you check your coin stash. Still there, still safe. But the thought sticks with you. You're never just yourself here. You're an idea, a name borrowed, a persona curated and protected. The moment someone cracks it, really cracks it, what do you have left? Agnes brings you tea without asking. She doesn't press, just sips beside you. "You know what I'd do," she says, "if the paper printed my name." You raise an eyebrow. "I'd spell it wrong. Let them chase the wrong ghost. It's nonsense, but it makes you laugh. You sleep restlessly, dreams full of ink and whispers and fingers pointing. In the morning, the papers have moved on. The story's buried behind a piece about a stolen horse and a bakery fire. Life resumes. The curtains stay navy. The nameplate still reads Dovecoat. Beatrix doesn't change it back, but you never fully relax again. Because now you know. A secret is only safe until someone needs it. And in this city, everyone's hungry for something to reveal. The next morning starts with lace and judgment. You're halfway through combing your hair when the door creaks open and Beatrix announces with no preamble, "We're receiving a visitor today." She says it like someone says plague, and not just any visitor, a moral reformer. You groan. Officially, these women come from charitable organizations, often attached to churches aimed at uplifting wayward women. Unofficially, they stroll into brothels like they're touring a crime scene, all gasps and raised eyebrows, looking for sin in the carpet fibers. This one arrives by noon. High boots, dark gloves, starched white collar. She's carrying a clipboard like it might smite you. Her name is Miss Eglantine Prescott, and she greets the house with the energy of someone who's never sneezed in public. "Good day," she says, scanning the parlor as if there might be a child hiding under the chaise. "What a quaint arrangement." Beatrix, to her credit, smiles with all her teeth. We take pride in our home's cleanliness. Would you like to see the schedule for mopping? Miss Prescott declines. Instead, she requests a group talk in the main room. All the girls are summoned, fresh-faced, coiffed, and trying not to roll their eyes. Maggie hands out teacups with stale biscuits and a warning look. Behave, it says. Or she'll start quoting scripture. Miss Prescott begins her speech, a well-practiced soliloquy of despair. She speaks of fallen women, of lost virtue, and, your favorite, the silent scream of the soul. You resist the urge to scream out loud. She urges you to consider a better life, perhaps in a laundry school or a ribbon factory. You imagine escaping brothel life only to die under a mountain of unwashed cravats. Tempting. Historians still argue over whether reformers helped or harmed. Some say they offered real alternatives, jobs, housing, support. Others believe they patronized and punished, more focused on saving souls than feeding stomachs. It's possible both were true. The road to redemption often had splinters. Miss Prescott passes out leaflets featuring hand-drawn angels and statistics. 1 in 6 brothel workers dies before 30, she intones. That's if they avoid the bottle. Agnes leans over and whispers, "Tell that to Clara. She's 35 and drinks like a dockhand." You snort. Miss Prescott hears. She frowns deeply, locking eyes with you. "You, dear, what brought you here?" Everyone tenses. You smile sweetly and say, "Carriage. Broke a wheel." There's a pause. Beatrix coughs into her glove. Miss Prescott blinks, then continues, slightly less smug now. You notice the strange way she looks at your feet. She hasn't made eye contact with anyone all morning, but she has fixated on boots, hem lengths, and, unforgivably, ankles. At one point, she shudders visibly at someone's exposed wrist. A fringe detail you once heard. Some reform societies took women to country retreats where they were taught embroidery and silence. One girl returned after a week, saying she was expected to sew Bible verses into napkins. "I don't even like napkins," she said. She left during morning prayers and never looked back. Eventually, the lecture ends. Miss Prescott gathers her things, hands out cards, just in case, and thanks Beatrix with a nod as crisp as her collar. "May you all find your true path," she says on the way out. As the door shuts behind her, silence falls. Then Marianne lets out the loudest yawn you've ever heard. Everyone bursts out laughing. "Silent scream of the soul," Agnes says, mimicking the voice. "More like silent scream of my ears," Daisy replies, rubbing her temples. Beatrix, ever practical, announces that tea hour is over and clients are clients no matter who's judging. She tosses the stack of pamphlets into the fireplace. The angels catch fire first. You swear one winks at you. Later that evening, a man shows up with a bouquet and no appointment. He says he was moved by the article and wants to save someone. Beatrix sends him away with a glare so sharp it could peel wallpaper. You wonder how many people think you're just waiting for salvation, that your life is one long cry for help, disguised as rouge and ribbon. But the truth is you chose this, maybe not forever, but for now, because it gave you coin, room, safety, even if all of that comes with a cost. And yes, some days you wonder what it would be like to teach school children or work in a bakery. But then you remember, school children bite and bakery ovens explode. Every life comes with burns. You've just learned where to expect yours. Before bed, you peek at the leaflet Miss Prescott left behind. It's printed on thick paper with tiny script, promising pure work for willing hands. You use it to steady a wobbly leg on your vanity. Maybe you'll be saved one day, but not today. A rare treat. Beatrix receives an invitation. Not the usual kind scribbled by nervous clients or would-be poets, but a thick cream-colored envelope sealed in wax, a proper calling card, embossed edges, heavy enough to be used as a weapon. It smells faintly of bergamot and superiority. You're summoned to the parlor mid-afternoon. Beatrix is wearing her serious face, the one with the pursed lips and eyebrows that suggests someone's about to be replaced with a new curtain. She waves the card in the air. "We've been invited," she says, "to Maison de Lis." The name hits the room like a gust of scented air. Maison de Lis, the most exclusive parlor house in all of London. Silk drapes, imported rugs, rumored fountains. The kind of place where clients arrive in carriages with liveried drivers and monogrammed gloves, and where the women sip wine they don't have to pay for. "This is not an open call," Beatrix continues. "Only two girls. Carefully selected. A hush falls. You sit straighter. Everyone does. It's a soiree, one evening. They're scouting talent." Beatrix's voice softens just a little. "It's an opportunity. You've never seen the inside of a high-class house. Not really. Stories, yes, always stories, like the one where every room in Maison de Lis has a name instead of a number. The peacock room, the ivory salon, the room with no mirrors. No one knows what happens in that one, possibly nothing. Which, frankly, sounds delightful. Beatrix picks you and Clara. Clara takes it with a knowing smile. You try not to look surprised or terrified, or both. That evening you ride in a cab toward Mayfair, the hem of your nicest dress tucked under your legs, your gloves slightly too tight. Beatrix lent you a better corset. It fits like scaffolding. You can't breathe, but you do look like you've swallowed a candlestick, upright, radiant, and slightly alarmed. The cab draws. Plus you at a discreet entrance behind an iron gate. A doorman in crimson livery opens it with a nod. No questions, just quiet elegance. You feel like a counterfeit coin in a pile of sovereigns. Inside is another world. No peeling wallpaper here, no frayed curtains. The air smells like real roses and warm pastries. Music drifts from a hidden quartet, violins, soft and slow. You're ushered into a receiving room, all velvet chaise lounges, and women dressed like duchesses in perfume advertisements. You sit beside Clara on a fainting couch. A server offers champagne in crystal flutes. You sip. It tastes like liquid sunshine and doesn't burn like the stuff Beatrix keeps locked in the pantry. A woman glides toward you, pale, regal, dressed in white silk and diamonds so large they probably have backstories. She introduces herself as Madame Geneviève. "You are Violet," she says, rolling the name like a warm pearl in her mouth. "And Clara. Beatrix speaks highly of you." You nod. Smile. Wonder what Beatrix really said. Geneviève explains that her house operates on a different frequency, an atmosphere of refinement, discretion, and, yes, elevation. "Our gentlemen prefer art," she says, "not transaction." You nod again. Art. Sure. Transactions wearing tiaras. She leads you through the salons, each one more surreal than the last. There's a room lit entirely by candles, with a live harpist plucking lullabies in the corner. One room has a perfumery table where clients mix their own signature scents. Clara whispers that one of them smells like library and poor decisions. You enter the peacock room. The ceiling shimmers with gold-leafed feathers. A man in a top hat offers you a sugared violet and asks if you've ever read Keats. You say yes. You haven't. He doesn't ask which poem. He talks for 20 minutes about his yacht, his mother's gout, and the emotional weight of being misunderstood. When he finishes, he kisses your gloved hand and says, "You listen like a sunrise." You resist the urge to ask if he's been drinking his own perfume. Historians still argue whether high-end parlor house genuinely offered safer conditions and more autonomy, or if the glamour was just better wallpaper over the same cracked walls. Certainly, Maison de Lis is softer, quieter, but you still see the same tension in the girl's eyes. You still notice how often someone checks the hallway before they speak. Later, in the garden, you and Clara sit on a marble bench beside a fountain shaped like a swan. Clara lights a cigarette and exhales into the moonlight. "Could you do it?" she asks. "Stay here?" You hesitate. "I'd miss macaroni." She smirks. Fair, you don't say it, but the real answer is maybe. If you didn't have to share tips with 7 people, if the champagne didn't feel like it came with strings, if the walls didn't whisper in French. The evening ends with a velvet-wrapped note from Geneviève. Consider yourself welcome anytime. No offers, no promises, just welcome. On the ride back, Clara hums the harpist's tune. You're too tired to talk. The city passes by like a moving theater. Lamplight, thick, shadow. You wonder what version of yourself walked into that house and whether she's still with you now. Back at the Lily house, the front door creaks like an old friend. Maggie's asleep in a chair. Macaroni stirs and blinks at you like you've brought home secrets on your hem. You don't undress. Just sit on your bed and stare at the corner where the wall meets the ceiling. So many lives you could live, and only one body to carry them all. You don't even have time to untie your corset the next morning before it begins. Heavy boots on cobblestones, a hard knock at the door, and that terrible sharp inhale from Beatrix that always means one thing. The police have come calling. You freeze halfway through brushing your hair. Agnes peeks out her door, eyes wide. General Macaroni scampers under the dresser like even he knows better than to be seen. 2 officers stand in the parlor. Not the usual ones Beatrix greases with envelopes and warm smiles. These men look like they've never smiled in their lives. Starched uniforms, mustaches that could cut glass, and notebooks already open. Beatrix's tone is syrup thick, full of fake warmth. "Gentlemen, what a surprise. To what do we owe the pleasure?" They don't return the courtesy. Someone tipped them off, they say, about licensing, about illegal operations, about girls underage, mistreated, unpaid. The words hang in the air like soot. You stand just out of sight, listening through the stairwell banister. Heart pounding, hands clenched. The officers want to see paperwork, names, rosters, licenses. Beatrix produces a bundle of documents so fast you'd think she sleeps with them under her pillow. But one officer, Inspector Godfrey, according to the badge, wants more than paperwork. He wants a look around. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because not every room is in perfect order. Not every girl has her papers. Not everything in the house is legal. Even the cat probably isn't. The house scatters like startled birds. Maggie stashes bottles. Daisy rips down the velvet swing from room 3. Clara hides a set of borrowed cufflinks under the floorboard near the kitchen hearth. You throw a shawl over the busted lock on your wardrobe door. Historians still debate how often Victorian police conducted brothel raids versus how often they simply took bribes to look the other way. It depended on the borough, the politics, the press, and who you might be blackmailing in return. Inspector Godfrey walks through like he's memorizing everything. He taps on walls, opens drawers, asks questions in that tone that implies he already knows the answers. You try not to make eye contact when he passes you on the stairs. He pauses anyway. "You," he says. "Name?" "Violet," you say smoothly. "Real name." You tilt your head, smile. "If I told you that, I'd have to marry you." Agnes snorts from behind the curtain. He moves on. Beatrix trails after them, her smile slowly cracking. When they reach the registry book in her office, she hesitates. One of the girls, Josie, left last month, but her name's still listed. That could raise questions. She stalls by offering tea. No one accepts. Then the questions get sharper. Is this your handwriting? Were these girls properly registered with the borough? Can we speak to them separately? The word separately sends a ripple through the house. You exchange glances with Agnes. That's not routine. That's an inquiry. Eventually, they do speak to you, one at a time, in the dressing room of all places. You sit on the stool by the cracked mirror, still in your robe. Inspector Godfrey perches on a chair like it might bite him. How long have you worked here? 2 years? Voluntarily? As voluntarily as anything in London. He blinks. You keep your expression smooth. Have you ever been mistreated? You raise an eyebrow. Do you mean by clients or by your colleagues? Either. I once got a splinter from the banister, you offer. His jaw tightens. This is serious. So is the banister. He sighs, closes the notebook, leaves without another word. They're in the house for 2 hours, and just before they go, they drop the twist. Beatrix's license is expired, just by 2 weeks. But that's enough. They tell her the house must close for a review period. Maybe a few days, maybe longer. They hand her a citation. She nods stiffly and thanks them. Her voice never cracks. After they leave, no one speaks. Then Beatrix does. Nobody cries. Nobody leaves. Nobody speaks to anyone outside this house until I say otherwise. Am I understood? You all nod, some slowly, some not at all. The mood for the rest of the day is strange. Not quite panic. Not quite relief. Just tension, stretched tight as corset laces. You help Clara hide a bottle of absinthe behind the stair panel. Agnes rewrites her client list in smaller script. Marianne just knits, unbothered. A fringe tale once told among girls in the East End. When the police raided a parlor house with no license, the madam disguised the whole place as a private reading club. Clients sat in armchairs and pretended to discuss poetry. One even read Milton. The raid failed. The house remained open. You wonder if Beatrix would go that far. You wouldn't be surprised to find her ordering copies of Great Expectations by tomorrow. That night, no clients come. No one's allowed in. The house goes still. No laughter. No boots on the stairs. No perfume hanging in the air. Just the creak of the old timbers and the sound of macaroni crunching a forgotten biscuit in the hallway. You sit by your window in your robe, looking out at the fog. You should feel frightened, but you don't. You feel alive. Because for the first time in a long time, something changed. Maybe not for the better, maybe not for long, but change, even forced by boots and ink and stern looks, is still change. And that means anything is possible. For once, the front door stays shut. No bell, no clients, no Maggie scampering with wine glasses or girls elbowing each other in front of the mirror. Just silence, thick, suspended, and strange. You'd forgotten what the house sounded like empty. Beatrix calls it a cooling period, as if the house were a pie fresh from the oven, not a parlor under suspicion. She tells you the paperwork is being handled, that everything will return to normal soon. But normal has always been a fragile concept around here. In the meantime, routines fray. The girls lounge in the parlor in robes and undone corsets. No clients means no lashes curled, no rouge applied. Agnes reads a book about horses. Marianne teaches Daisy how to crochet. Someone pins a doily to the cat. Macaroni accepts it with silent disdain. With no coin coming in, Beatrix tightens expenses. Less bread, no candles during daylight. Corset laces must now be shared, communally, she says, as if that makes it noble. You steal back an old broken pair from behind your dresser drawer and knot them back together. It's during this lull that Nellie quietly says she wants out. It happens on the third morning of silence. You're both sitting on the back steps watching a cart full of coal rattle past. She says it so softly you think you misheard. "I want to go," she repeats. "I mean properly go, away." You don't answer right away. Just sip the bitter tea Beatrix brewed from herbs no one can identify. Nellie wraps her arms around herself. "I have a cousin in Dover. He works on ships. Says I could maybe clean cabins or something, anything." You look at her. Really look. She's been different lately. Quieter. Not sick, but subdued. There's a twitch in her hands sometimes, like she's holding a thought she can't quite get rid of. "Have you told Beatrix?" She shakes her head quickly. "She'd find me work here again by Tuesday. Maybe not here, but somewhere else. With someone worse." You believe her. Beatrix has connections and reach. If you disappear without permission, you don't stay disappeared for long. "You'll need coin," you say. "I've got a few shillings," she replies, voice thin. "But not enough. Ticket's almost 3. You do the only thing you can. That night you slip 2 shillings from your stash, the one under the floorboard, and tuck it into her stocking when she's asleep. You don't tell her. You don't need to. Historians still argue about how often brothel women escaped the life versus simply transferred to a new address. Records were patchy, names changed. Some ran, some were caught, some simply vanished, reduced to shadows in someone else's story. 3 days later, Nellie is gone. She leaves before dawn. No note, no goodbye. Just her locket on the dressing table and her name missing from the ledger. Beatrix pretends she's been transferred. Everyone pretends with her. But, you go through your day with her absence like a whisper in your ear. You glance toward her chair in the parlor, her mug in the kitchen, the soap she left on the wash basin. You wonder where she is now, on a cart to Dover, maybe. Staring out at sea, wondering what kind of wind it takes to erase everything behind you. You talk to Agnes about it the next evening. She's sewing buttons onto a borrowed chemise. "You thinking of leaving too?" she asks, not looking up. "Sometimes," you admit. She shrugs. "You wouldn't like Dover. Damp all the time. Fishy." You laugh, but the thought lingers. What would it take to leave? To walk out and not look back? You try to picture it. Different hair, different name, different life. A little shop in a little town where no one asks questions, where you don't have to lace anything. There's always a list of reasons to stay. Familiarity, fear, friendship, the devil you know. But now there's also proof. Someone got out. You start keeping your coin stash closer, rethinking how much rouge you really need, asking Maggie how much bread actually costs from the market. That night, the city fog rolls in heavy and low. You sit by the window and watch the street lamps vanish one by one in the mist. It's like someone's erasing the city a piece at a time. In the parlor, Clara plays with a deck of cards. Agnes tells a joke about a bishop and a fishmonger. No one laughs, but no one minds. The air feels different now. Change isn't just possible, it's present. You close your eyes and imagine Nellie aboard a ship, salty wind in her face. No lace, no ledgers, no Beatrix. And for the first time in a long time, you dare to hope. The house returns to business, but it's never quite the same. The license is reinstated. The velvet drapes go back up. This time in burgundy. For discretion, Beatrix says. Clients trickle in slower than before, more cautious, like cats poking at a cold stove. Even the bishop wears a deeper hood. You fall back into the routine. Powder, corset, boots, pretend. But there's a thread in the weave now, a subtle change in tension, the whisper of departure, the knowledge that the door can be opened from the inside. You see it in the other girls, too. Clara starts saving more deliberately. She claims it's for a new corset, but you catch her reading pamphlets about schooling for women. Real schooling, with pencils and desks and phrases like mathematics for late bloomers. Agnes begins helping Maggie in the laundry, not just folding sheets, actually asking questions about how Beatrix handles inventory. Just curious, she says, eyes a little too sharp. You've seen curiosity build entire revolutions. Beatrix senses the shift too. She starts calling everyone by their assigned names more often, starts inspecting dresses more closely, starts locking the larder. And you? You keep working, but the work no longer owns you. You rise, you powder, you lace, but your thoughts are elsewhere. You polish shoes while calculating fares to Bristol. You light candles and imagine how long they'd last in a cottage near the woods. You smile at a client while wondering what a market stall would cost in York. You even visit the station once, just to look. It smells like iron and ash. You buy a penny sweet and sit on a bench near the schedules. Trains come and go. People wave, depart, vanish into destinations that feel like stories. It's so loud, so messy, so alive. Back at the house, Beatrix pretends not to notice you're humming a different tune when you return. But she does notice. "Been out?" she asks, casually. "Just air," you reply. "Dangerous to breathe too much," she says. "Isn't it always?" She doesn't answer. The nights carry on. Mr. Mortimer returns and still talks about taxes. A new client requests that you pretend to be a lighthouse keeper's widow. You go along with it, inventing tragic sea tales between sips of sherry. He tips generously. Historians still argue whether women in brothels had long-term plans or merely clung to short-term survival. Some claim most women stayed in the life forever. Others that many slipped into marriage or servitude or disappearance. The truth, as always, is somewhere in between. You live one day at a time, but each day can shape the next. And then, one quiet morning, you hear the horses. Not the usual carts or clattering hooves. This is different. Measured, clean, deliberate. A carriage, white and polished, pulls up outside. The man who steps out is unfamiliar. No top hat, no cane, just gloves and a letter. He hands it to Beatrix, who reads it, her face unreadable. She looks at you. He's here for you. Your first instinct is fear, then suspicion, then something stranger, hope. He's a solicitor, it turns out, working on behalf of someone you don't know. Or maybe you do. You aren't told who, only that a small inheritance has been secured, enough to relocate, enough to start. Beatrix eyes the document. Could be a scam. You nod. Might be, but you pack anyway. One small trunk, your own shoes, your own dress, and the coin stash you've rebuilt piece by piece. If you leave macaroni, a bowl of cream, and a ribbon. Agnes hugs you hard. Clara doesn't cry, but she hands you her crochet hook, just in case. Marianne gives you a lemon, says it wards off road sickness. You tuck it in your pocket with a grin. Beatrix watches from the doorway. "You'll be back," she says, not unkindly. They always come back. You don't answer. You step into the carriage and don't look back. Wind down. 300 words. The city slips away behind you, cobblestones fading to dust, gaslight giving way to dawn. You lean your head against the window, watching as trees begin to outnumber chimneys. Somewhere out there, Nellie is waking up to the sound of seagulls. Somewhere, a cottage window opens and lets in quiet. You exhale. The carriage rocks gently, steady and slow. The road winds onward. No rush, no clients, no velvet curtains or unspoken codes. You think of the old house, its crooked stairs, its too thin walls, the smell of rosewater and laundry steam. You remember every name, every joke half told, every story stitched together with survival. The corset loosens, the rouge fades. The girl called Violet begins to drift. In her place, someone new, someone who owns her name, who chooses her steps, who sleeps without counting coin. The sky turns soft gray blue, the kind that suggests the sun is just waiting for you to look away before it peeks over the hills. Birds begin to chirp, just a few, like a warm-up act for morning. You pull the blanket over your shoulders, let your eyes close. The carriage bumps over a stone, gently rocking you like a cradle. And for the first time in years, you feel it. Peace, just peace, soft, unremarkable, perfect peace. Let it carry you now, let sleep come. You've made it through, and you're free. End of script, sweet dreams.